Hello, I'm EnterElysium, and welcome to Aurora 4X, your favorite space strategy, fantastically frustrating game. I really jumbled that. Anyway, we are designing some pretty big ships today. We're going to be designing a command cruiser, and, well, it's just designated a flagship for now. We're going to probably call it a battleship. Maybe a battleship carrier. Battle carrier? Battle carrier. Anyway, I went through and I made a couple of adjustments. I made some mistakes with vessels that we made in the previous couple of episodes. I had like the old armor on instead of the new armor. And there are a couple of tweaks I can make in terms of like power systems. And that has resulted in some pretty snazzy vessels, I feel. So the Onyx is now sporting 2 more lasers. And I got rid of the power cores that I had sitting around that weren't needed because I forgot they were on there. The Professor is now a little bit lower in armor, but has an extra quad gauze cannon, which is great. It's lost the spinal mount, but that's fine. It didn't really need it. If we go down to the Mighty Trick, you'll see that the Mighty Trick now has 4 extra launchers back. All of them have got ECM 2, which is very nice. And the Ice Lord now has... What did you get? Missile Cruiser. What did you get? Was it missiles or lasers or something? You got something. Everyone got something. It might have just been the ECM, to be honest. But it worked out pretty well. A little bit of an update here and there. So, today we're going to be designing a command cruiser. So we're going to whip out the Fire Flash, make sure the update armor is pressed. I'm going to press it a few more times to make sure I don't forget. And you are going to be a command cruiser. Done. So, easy setup. We know what we're going for in here. There are 3 shields. There are 3 engines. We are going to want to call this G2. And then battle ships. Yes, I think. Also, did we do the naming for our frigate? We did. Okay. Ooh. Did the frigate get... Yes, commander priority. Great. Commander priority here is going to go all the way to 26. Perfect. Okay, with that said and done, we're going to need to give you a few more things. Firstly, fuel. Again, it's 12 large fuel. Sensors, we're going to probably want to give it a mix, so we're going to give it a backup 5-ton sensor, an anti-missile sensor, although it doesn't need to be the anti-missile sensor, which can detect them further out. It can be a much closer range one if necessary, just so that guns can pick them up. And then instead of giving it this one, we're going to give it 2 different sensors, one for anti-FAC detection and one for like long-range main ship detection. In fact, this one probably suffices. Maybe just make it a bit bigger. So, we also get ECM 2. Auxiliary control, Combat Information Center, main engineering, and DAMCON. You will also get a flag bridge. And I know this is not the flagship act, but it will be the leader of the fleet. So it is the flagship. We will have a Pride of the Fleet flagship, which I think is what the act is really going for. But that's going to be the next one we make after this. So with that done, we're going to pop down and we're going to grab a few maintenance storage bays. We'll get that up to like 8. Engineering spaces, we'll get that up to about 9. And then I want to try and get a hangar deck or 2 on here. I'm trying to think what this can do now we've moved point defense to other craft. I'm thinking, hey, why don't I actually make this like something that can hold its own as a maybe a limited extent carrier. I don't want to go full carrier, but like chasing down fleeing warships and something like that. Hangar deck. It was under H. Hangar deck. Okay. 2,000 tons worth of craft. That seems reasonable. Which means we can make some new craft. This is going to be an interesting episode. And what else? Sensor. Yeah. Let's do it. This is going to be one big sensor, and we're going to deliberately make it so that it targets a slightly larger profile craft so we can get the range further. I'm kind of tempted to go for, you know, the 200 million range. Obviously, you know, 1,000 tons, we could go for that 170 million range. If we went for, you know, just a 500 ton sensor, we could get 120 million. If we go to detecting much larger craft, it's very rare to find enemy craft that are significantly lower than that. If we go for maybe like 800 tons, let's go for 700. That'll basically catch almost anything. Not swarm, but anything other than that. And then in terms of size, it's big at 1.4 kilotons, but that is a pretty chunky search area. The armor rating, we're definitely going to want to go like minimum 10. I'm going to say 12 for now. Oh, note how little that actually goes up in weight. Like it goes up, what, like 2.5 tons? 2.5 kilotons? That's fantastic. Yeah, we'll probably want to actually go much higher than that. Because again, this command cruiser, we do not want this taken out. It is important. Oh, we hit senior CO as well. You know what? It is responsible for the fleet. It should have the large sensor. That's its main purpose now. It used to be point defense and sensor. Its main purpose now is sensor. Without this, it doesn't matter. So yes, we will actually go all in. And unfortunately, they use a lot of supplies, so we're gonna have to just deal with that. Right. 201 million against a resolution of 7 kilotons. Your mass is 1.4 kilotons. This thing by itself is going to be very expensive to build. And anything else we need? No, I think that's it. Who is responsible for this? Crozet Electronic Systems. Okay, there is room left. We could add some point defense, you know, like a Gauss gun, maybe 2 Gauss guns, or we could add more hangar space. We could add a magazine so that people could reload from it. I completely forgot to put a jump drive in this thing. I just realized. So let's do the jump drive. Whoops. Okay, jump engine. We'll make the radius bigger. That allows us to kind of assault a hostile jump point more easily. And obviously want to have the max squad size so we can take as many people as we can. And this is where it's going to get a little bit painful. How big does this need to be? Yeah, that's fine. We could totally fit this in a design. Sure, why not? Oh, and I forgot the company, which is Scythian Kruber Thrust. Kruber is showing up way too much. We'll add one of them in. We need to cut down on weight. Great. I guess that solves some issues for us. I put extra hand decks in. We'll cut back on them. We still have to cut down a little bit. That's probably going to be a little bit of armor. Okay. Well, this vessel has no guns. It should probably have at least something as an armament. But for the life of me, I can't think what. Hell, even the maintenance life needs to be cut down. The jump drives are expensive. Like, that maintenance life is just awful. Okay, I guess we cut down a little bit and see where we can get this maintenance life. Okay, there's a little bit of spare space, but it's not really enough to do much with. Being completely frank. So we could, like, drop our armor down a notch and get a couple of weapons in, but we need to get the beam fire control in. I even put a Sea-Wiz in. We can get rid of that. You know what? Save a little bit. There we go. Back to 12. If we do go down to 11. No, we only saved 300 tons. Okay, let's put in, I think, like a couple of beam weapons. Just basic standard fire control to go with them. Yes, we're still over our 20 billion range. We have ourselves ECM. We have 2 lasers with power supplies. We've got 3 shields. We've got the 3 engines. We have our 2 hangar decks. The idea is I'm thinking boarding craft. And that way, there'll be 4 boarding craft per cruiser. And that way, if we find an enemy vessel that's potentially something we want to take, we can board it. And obviously, we can switch these out for different craft. Like, if we have a mission where we might want to put, you know, what would it be? You know what? You can actually do something with Gauss gun craft for point defense. You just launch them, and then they can help shoot down missiles for you. They're not the best at it, obviously, but they're not bad. Yeah. Maybe something we do. Hell, we could even go a mix. 2 and 2 or something. Right. The only things I'm regretting here is that we have no passive sensor, and I would like a passive sensor. We also have no EM sensor, and that is pretty good, although probably not as good as what we've got. We've got rid of our laser weapons entirely. We could fit it in. You know what? Screw it. Let's get rid of the laser weapon. Okay, there we go. I've added a pretty hefty thermal sensor along with pretty, not amazing, but still good EM sensor. This was actually by Mapulon, which made me laugh. There is no weapon. And as such, I actually got rid of the Combat Information Center. It wasn't really necessary. It gives us a plus to hit, and we don't have a weapon to hit with, so not something we need. It did allow us to push the armor up. We're now to armor 13. It has 0 weapons, which, you know, I have feelings about. I feel that I really wish we had a weapon, but at the same time, I don't know where we'd go. Like, even if we cut the armor down to 11, we don't even get 1,000 tons. I gave it a spinal-mounted laser. I could only give it the one, but I gave it the biggest laser we had. That actually seems to be fine. 12 tons left. We did, of course, lose 2 layers of armor for that. It might not be worth it, but I kind of feel that every vessel should have something. It's probably not the right approach. I know. And then fighter. Oh no, we've got to that kind of weird crux point where if we go up 1 fighter fuel tank, the armor is actually big enough it goes up 2 tons instead of 1. You know what? It's fine. It's one ton lower. This is gonna bug me. So gonna bug me. Oh well. Right. It's not as great as I thought it would be. I was really hoping we'd have a bit more space to play around with. It's not even a carrier. It is still a command cruiser. It just happens to have a hangar deck. Yeah, the change is that effectively the sensor is much larger, which at the end of the day is fine. That's what it's designed to do. We'll just have to accept that you can't be quite as amazing as you once were. Right. Since we have the hangar deck, I'm feeling we design ourselves a craft to go in the hangar deck, which... 4 500-ton craft designed for boarding. And we have done that before, but these craft are not designed for normal boarding. They're going to be designed for opposed boarding, where the enemy is actively shooting at you. Not just, oh, they're damaged and kind of just sitting there. No, this is going to be designed to take enemy craft that potentially have a lot of tech on board before we wreck them. So, we're going to pop over to here. Ship Optimizer. Desired tonnage is only 500 tons. We would like you to have, like, maybe 60%. Desired range... like 0.1 billion. Desired number of engines, just the 1. And desired speed, 20,000 minimum. Okay, you can easily do that. In which case, our previous assault shuttle, the Fusco, you're going to be obsolete. We're going to make a new version of you. So I think we're actually just going to copy class, obsolete the old one, rename this one. This is going to be the Fusco 2. They're actually not going to have much in common because they're going to have the troop boarding bay and that's about it. And even then, I don't think we use this troop boarding bay. I think we use a smaller one. We don't need to get a huge number of people there. We just need to make sure they get there. We can always just throw more people at it. So we're going to update armor, chuck the engine, chuck the boarding bay and instead go for the very small boarding bay, which only deliver 100 tons of troops. But the idea here is that instead of going in at, you know, a sedate 11.5k, we go in at least 20. And I'd like to get that to 25 if possible. So let's go for... what do they recommend? They recommend 2.5 times. Yeah, so they're going max power on the engine. There are other designs that like, use more engines. Whatever. We could use up to 60%. 0 doesn't change the weight, but 1 does. What about 0.1? No. Well, deployment time still has to be 1. Okay. Armor rating. We can actually use a bit of armor here. Shields, I don't think will get us anything. Like, at the kind of size we're talking about, this is 500 tons. Let's bring it down to 50 tons. You get shield strength 1. And it will recharge in 2 minutes. That's not enough to help. 8 armor, that will help. It'll take some hits. Not many, but we'll see. Okay. This engine they're talking about a 4 hull size, 2.5 times burn. I think we can go higher. We might have to compromise armor a little bit, but I think we can go kind of a good deal higher. Let's go 25k. And obviously this range is 0.14 billion. We don't necessarily need that range. Can we get up to 35,000? This is where I'm thinking we'll hit like a brick wall. No, that's allowed. It does mean cutting our armor quite significantly. We're down to 148 tons, so we're looking at something along the lines of less than 3 armor, because that's going to require crew anyway on top of that. So this is going to be a lot of back and forth. Let's try... like, this engine wouldn't be able to move a starship fast, but it would be possible to move a full-on starship. We'll add a company name. Dragon Man and Croze. Okay. Let's test this puppy out. The armor isn't what we need. It's 3. I want to be able to take at least 3 points of damage. So I'm kind of looking to maybe get that into like the 7 margin, but oof, that does actually add quite a lot to the weight. In terms of fuel, yeah, you get the point set 14 billion with 3 armor. You know what? At 30,000, it's going to be tough to hit the thing. What would take it out would be anti-missile missiles, because obviously they're designed to hit things moving at the speed, and it could take 3 points of damage before it suddenly kind of has an issue. The armor is 3 deep and 5 long, so if you took out every point of armor, that would be 15 points of damage before it would take hull damage. Obviously, that's not really the case. No one's going to shoot the armor off. It will have 1 failure every year, but it can't deal with a failure if it has one. That's fine. It's not going to be out very long anyway. It can be out for an hour. I think this is acceptable. I tend towards kind of wanting more armor, but as we, see, if we do, we're looking at a pretty big increase, and that would cut our engine power quite significantly. Original Fisco, you're obsolete. Great! Okay. I'm going to set up for the next thing, and it's going to be interesting. Okay, so we are going to be designing a ship that's going to be basically the pride of the fleet. This is because of the Flagship Act. It's called the designing of a large flagship for the fleet. The flagship must have a spinal mount laser, multiple lasers for offense and defense, and if possible, a hangar bay for a small number of strike craft. This act also stipulates that construction begin after the mineral crisis has been resolved. So we can design it now, but we need to actually build it later. This is going to be the sit where we're going to use. It's going to go to 60,000, which should be done in about 3 years' time. So end of mineral crisis, I kind of anticipate to be around then. This ship is just based on the Firefash, but copied and upgraded to be twice the size. So we're going 60,000 tons here. We could go a little smaller. We could go 50,000. And obviously, the extra space is going to be a bit of a problem because we're going to need a bigger jump drive. And no one else is going to get the benefit because no one else is bigger than our current, command vessel, which is the Firefash, but smaller than this, or at least the same size as this. It just needs the jump drive to jump itself. So we could potentially go for like a 50,000 tonner. It would begin construction just before the end of the term, which I think is probably the best goal. And then we can always scale up. Now, I've called this a battle star in terms of designation because it calls the design of a large flagship. It must have multiple railguns, multiple lasers for offensive defense, and if possible, a hangar bay. Now, it doesn't mean it needs a lot of hangar bays, but I'm kind of thinking there might be an opportunity to put down some hangar bays for, fighters with guns, rather than just boarding fighters. Doesn't necessarily need them, but I kind of think that's in the spirit of the act. So we're going to chuck on a couple of hangar decks. And we'll actually double that. And then... Now, the armor's 16 at the moment. Again, might be a lot of stuff needs here adjusting. So, we'll see how things go. It needs weapons for offense and defense. So, we'll grab some 2 Gauss cannon turrets. Then I'm thinking... lasers. 2 quad laser turrets. It needs a spinal. That is stated in the act. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 like normal UVs. And then we need the fire controls for that, and obviously everything that goes with that. So 2 chunky, quick moving fire controls, and actually we don't need a chunky, quick moving fire control if we get rid of the quad lasers, do we? Yeah. We need the much shorter range one. Perfect. We'll get 2 of them. And then we need a fire control to deal with our normal weapons fire. We'll get, I'm thinking 3 of them. It needs multiple lasers. It does state multiple lasers. And I think that means ideally more than just 2 if possible. I'll start to lawyer if it becomes a bit of an issue, but I think this should be totally feasible. Yeah, and well within our tonnage right now. If we're going with 60,000 tons. Obviously, the remainder is probably going to be jump drive, so we probably shouldn't overshoot too much, and we do need to put reactors in. But it's looking kind of fine. Now, obviously, we could trade at this point. We could say, hey, let's put more hangars in, let's do the carrier thing. Or we could go the other route and say, hey, it does say, if possible, some hangar bay for strike craft. Now, strike craft might be a little bit more, and there should be anti-enemy ship. And while that is vaguely true, it does mean we need to then put in like a proper, what are they called? Missile thingy. Magazine. We could do that. You know what? Yeah, let's use this as more of like a heavy carrier with guns as opposed to a battle star. It does need spinal mount, multiple weapons for offense and defense. It does say lasers. Well, it does say railguns, and I had to change that because I was like, we don't own any railgun tech. Let's start limiting this, and we'll go with actually having a proper strike craft ability. So we'll reduce this to that. We'll probably want to get rid of the Gauss cannons. They only function as one thing, point defense, which, yeah, maybe we'll see. Get rid of one of the beam fire controls up here. Hell, we'll get rid of both of them. No, we need 2. We need a backup. Vessels this size should have backups. Even tempted to put a backup ECM on here. It's tempting. Let's see what size we're talking about when we talk about our jump drive. Design tech. Talking about 10,000 tons. If we would make our craft smaller, talking about 8,000 tons. Okay, let's do some cutting and see if we can get down to 50,000 tons. That'll be 1 engine, 1 shield, and 1 very large fuel tank. We'd still need to cut further. Well, we do have a lot of armor. Although, armor isn't actually that heavy. We could start to tweak things. We don't necessarily need to have 5 shields. That's only if we keep the same progression, a linear progression of shield to mass. We could taper off a little bit. I think getting rid of the quad gauze cannons might help. They are very heavy. And it does say about offense and defense. So defend itself doesn't necessarily mean against missiles. So if we just go with the defend itself against other craft, I think is kind of maybe the gist of it. Typical kind of thing. That might work. Although again, we need now a magazine like on board to be able to put missiles in. This is the issue with trying to run something that's multi-role. We could lose a shield. Again, this is going to be the pride of the fleet. And we're going to call it rename class. So we're going to call you the Pride of Elysium. Okay, here we go. It is a 4,000 ton worth of flight deck, 14 armor, lot of shield, big jump drive, ECM sensor, ECM, it's not sensor, it's just system, right? Yeah, electronic countermeasures 2. It's got all the sensors and stuff of a normal craft. Like, one way to do it would be to get rid of all the sensors and say, hey, it just goes with a command craft, but I feel this thing should probably be a command craft in its own right. Yeah, I mean, it needs to jump drive anyway, and taking the sensors out would free up a little bit more for carrier room. The amount of firepower and deck space is quite low, but it does have a magazine that we can reload from. My only concern is that for 60,000 tons, we're not getting a lot of firepower from this thing. Because again, it's having to do a lot of work. It's having to be its own jump drive unit. It's having to have the sensors, etc. And while we could cut them out, it needs the jump drive. The sensors could come out. It would then need someone to come with it. And I don't think this is really what's aimed for with this. Yeah. So the Pride of Elysium is reasonable for now. With better tech, it would definitely get more reasonable. Like we could add, I'm trying to think what we could add. Smaller size jump drive, obviously. Search sensor wouldn't need to be as large. Those would add up quite quickly, actually. Yeah. So might be something that we can again iterate on in future. But for now, you're good. I'm not going to use 40k battleships. I think we will say no theme, and I'll name them individually. And then priority for commander is going to be 31. That's our heavy carrier. Which I guess means we need to design an attack craft of some kind, right? So we're probably looking at, again, a 500-ton craft. I don't think anything else is really going to cut it. Not unless we're going for something like 400 tons. Getting the missiles on board. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way we could improve than that. So we'll go new ship class. We're going to go for a size 6 because it's standard. Again, if we want to change this, all it means is building some more fighters. So the benefit of fighters, just like the benefit of missile launchers, so easy to change in and out. We actually don't need that. We can use the old one. Where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's probably where we're going to have to start from. We need a missile fire control. Now, this is either going to use the Wakizashi or a completely new type of missile. Now, the Wakizashi was aimed at a 10 million distance. I'm wondering what we could do if we got, like, really in close with a missile. So, missile size 6. Warhead strength 9. Desired range. What if we said, like, our desired range was, say, like, 4? Not a huge increase over the Wakizashi. We'll just use Wakizashis for it. It makes it easier. More able to just move missiles around between the fleet. So we know we're aiming for a distance of 10. So our missile fire control... 27 million. That's comfortably outside the range of our missiles. Over double. Let's bring the resolution down. I mean, our resolution could be 2,000 tons. I'm going to leave it at 5,000 tons. This is as small as I can make the damn thing. And this is still over double the range. We could make a longer range missile to fire from our bombers if we really cared. But there's no reason for us to be really targeting anything particularly small with this. At least not right now. I think for the future, maybe. Maybe we should go lower. You know what? Yes. This is designed now to engage facts. Why not? It can engage facts. Sure. MFC 21. E. What format are we using for this? Slash E8. 12.5 million, I guess. Will be exact. In resolution of 1 kiloton. Mass 5 tons. And it is made by Strain Electronics. Now, obviously, we could go for more missiles here. But each one is a pretty chunky beast. We're talking almost 50 tons. That's half the vessel almost if we go for 500 tons. Or half the vessel entirely if we go for 400 tons. We need range. And we need engine. So we need fuel and engine. And this, unlike the... what's it called? The boarding shuttle is not going to be that subtle. Not going to be going, oh, I just go there and I come back and we're done, like very short range. This thing's going to have to travel a little bit. Be able to shadow an enemy and fire and then come back. Not as long as the other one, but still going to need to be a thing. So I guess I did just close it, which is frustrating on so many levels, but let's bring up A4X calc.jar. Ship optimizer. Hey there. Oh, thankfully you remember all my settings. That's beautiful. Our desired speed for this is going to be like 20,000. I think we go with the extra distance. It's going to reduce the number of fighters overall, but it'll give us more ability to choose how we do this. And I think we'll even drop the speed a little bit, see what happens. Yeah, we can maybe get this up to 5 missiles each, if we're lucky. So, we're going to go for an engine of 3.6 max fuel. Alright, let's design a tech. And then one standard... Wow, a standard fuel tank. Pretty large, actually. 50 tons, that's the 10th of the vessel already. And then it does say a tiny... Okay. Range of just over 2 billion. It can carry 5 missiles. It has a missile fire control that is capable of targeting the enemy with ease. I like it. The only thing I'd consider is maybe being like, okay, what happens if we were adding like a really scaled down Gauze weapon? How big would that be? 25 tons. Because this way we could go out and we could shoot enemy ships that can't defend themselves. Which sounded better in my head than when I said it out loud. Admittedly, the hit chance really reduces, but it doesn't matter if, you know, they're not shooting back. It would maybe save on stuff, but at the end of the day, I guess in those cases, they're likely to be going slower than us, so... yeah. We could also then, with that, just pop them out, put them next to the fleet. Help to take down enemy missiles or whatever. Admittedly, they'd need a beam fire control and hit them moving that fast, but... yeah, and the hit chance goes down. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, this can move for 31 hours at full power. Okay, 31 hours. The annual failure rate is incredibly low. Didn't even really need to do that, but we can, so I did. And it can travel 2 billion kilometers. Not huge, but enough that it can act at much, much further range than, say, our normal missiles. I'm actually going to go out and guarantee now that it is going to be filled with Wakizashis. there's no point beating around the bush. It's Wakasashi's only on this thing. Now, there is one thing we will need to do, and that is we'll need to make an active search sensor that will be in the group. The group can't just be bombers. There needs to be a sensor that can detect the enemy. And the reason that I didn't put one on here is those sensors, as you will see, tend to unfortunately be a little bit on the large size. If we crank this up to... I should just stop talking. Oh, it's because we're talking about different resolution. Like, if we're actually going for the resolution that I was mentioning, the FAC, yeah, it needs to be 15 tons. We could maybe make that work. And involve getting rid of the engineering space. It would mean that one of the craft doesn't need to be a designated targeter. And hell, we can still maybe just run it against bigger craft and then just getting closer. 0.7 M, and then resolution is for a 5 kiloton vessel with a mass 5 tons by instant. These don't need a spotter. They are capable of doing it themselves. They have 5 missiles each. We have, what was it, 4,000 tons of space on the Pride of Elysium. Okay, so we can get 8 on there, which is 40 missiles. It's not a huge volley, like it's not a fleet-sized volley, but it's a volley that we can direct from certain directions. We can be faster. We can catch up with the enemy. It's reasonable. Okay. The Rasputin is good to go. I don't think we need to do anything else to it. Okay, we got one of our new fuel harvesting stations, the TIE 005, constructed Earth and assigned to space station. Let's see where we want to move that. I'm thinking over here. Subject Delta C 2. It's a Super Jovian with 2/3 of a billion sodium at 0.8 availability. That's pretty good, and we will definitely be taking advantage of that. So if you do not mind, it'll have to be one of the smaller tugs. Our large tug is kind of busy right now, and I believe both the tankers could do with going home. So we're going to actually just attach them real quick and tell them to eat health for leather, go back to Sol, and refuel. Hey, they're doing the jump. Nice. Right. Refresh. New stations. No. Okay, well, I guess I can delete that then. Space station. Yes. Detach. Yeah, sure, and it'll take you 10.7 days. That's exactly what it will do. 307 days. That's more like it. Those Death Slayers are all over Lewis. At least 3 of them. Mass smoothing from the Abishai, the ghosts. So definitely military. No idea why they're running around Lewis so frantically. Maybe it's got anything to do with the weird space rift warp anomaly. Okay, we just got our first set of Sapphire Ebony 3s with their new fangled increased speed, which I'm super stoked about. We are going to rename you. Okay. Your job is going to be, honestly, pretty damn simple. We'll load cars from Earth, and we're going to auto-route through to Galliwiz, as you might have well expected. Unload them, and then zoom back to Earth. And refuel. 82 days. Oh, that's so much quicker. Okay, let's start building. Let's go for... Oh, I might as well fill the slipways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Ice Lords. 2 Professors. 2 Onyxes. A Mighty Trick. And that's gonna be it for now. We could tell you to switch over to building Mighty Tricks while you're expanding your capacity, but honestly, pretty fine as we are. I'm Yeah, the only one we're not building at is going to be here, which obviously we're waiting for the Fireflash to be ready. All of them should be done this decade, though. Huh. I mean, they won't have a command ship, but they can operate in our territory. They also won't have a good long-range sensor. Oh, hey! It's a ship of the Grosvenor Protectorate. We haven't seen one of you around in Lewis for a long time. We haven't seen one of you around for a while, but especially in Lewis. Wonder how you got there. I guess from a movie. Yeah, makes sense. Just haven't been up this way for a while. Okay. We've finished productions of mines at Earth. Well, isn't that amazing? You know what we're going to be doing now? We're going to be building more mines because, well, even though that's enough to get us over the hump, we're going to need more. To take to other colonies and honestly, even a few places in Sol. So we're going to build 1,000 more. We're only going to put 20% for now. We might need to tweak that up because the other 20% I want to put on construction factories. I think it's become kind of evident. It's a shame it's going to be using geranium and tronium, but oh well. It's become evident that we wanted to build stuff faster than we were at the moment. So I'm going to increase our capacity by about a third. Put that in at 20% as well. And that says it'll take until almost 10 years. Okay, mine's going to take more than 10 years. Fine. But there's stuff that's going to be done a little before that. Actually, no, everything we've got working is going to take ages. Great. Good job. Fantastic. Oh well. Most recent is going to be the ordnance factories, but they're going other places. Oh well. Right. With that, I think that's a good place to end for today. Time has advanced. Mostly, we're going to be waiting on stuff being produced. And that's going to be, well, it's going to be a few years. Might well see that the next episode actually jumps quite far ahead. We stalled for a little while as we built a new fleet, or at least designed them. But now we're waiting for them to just be produced and stuff to be taken places. Might well start accelerating. I've been EnterElysium. If you want to get involved in the voting in the Discord and the events and stuff, head over to the Discord. A load of people doing some roleplay over there. It's been pretty fun. Also, you know, there's a feed, an announcement feed, allows you to see all my videos and streams. And if you want to see them on a somewhat irregular basis, you could always rely on the YouTube sub feed and subscribe and like with the little link down below. Hit the bell icon, do the thing, do the other thing, whatever. And also you could, comment. Comments and likes are pretty helpful. So if you can do that, that'd be much appreciated. But until next time, I've been EnterElysium. Stay shiny.